Welcome everyone to the second tour of the Lower American River Parkway, brought to you by the Wildlife Conservation Board for the Lower American River Conservancy program. This production was made possible with the helping hands of several of our partners located right here in the Parkway. Without their support, this virtual tour would not be possible. And now, let's head out to the river. For those of you new to the Lower American River Parkway, it is located from Hazel Avenue downriver to the confluence with the Sacramento River, and our tour today will feature the middle reach of the Parkway, and we begin our tour at the upriver end at Riverbend Park. Right now we are looking upriver, however the tour will continue downriver, and Riverbend Park is located on the river left side of the Parkway, which means when traveling downriver, it is located on the left-hand side. And before moving on downriver, the American River Parkway Foundation would like to introduce you to a very special site located right here at Riverbend Park.
In 2008, the Campfire Girls wanted to sell their property, which was a in-holding within the Riverbend area. The County of Sacramento Parks Department purchased the 10-acre spot for $20,000. In 2009, the District Rotary 5180 and the American River Parkway Foundation entered into an agreement to rehab the entire facility. It was used for paintball, there was concrete, it was tagged, it was disgusting. Since that time, over the last 10 years, we have put in roughly $700,000 into the facility. That includes accessible walkways, a brand new amphitheater, shade structures, new picnic tables, done a number of cleanups, trimming of the trees, walkways, etc. And then the most exciting part to all of this was in 2016, the American River Parkway Foundation entered into an agreement with Sacramento County Office of Education. And from there, the Riverbend Outdoor Education Program has been born. And since that time, we have served over 9,000 children. And all of these children are from Title I schools between the grades of 3rd and 5th grade. For so many of these children, they have never been to the Parkway. They have never experienced the American River Parkway. They thought when they drove in on the bus they were in some forest and something. And for them to be able to see how pristine this area is, to explore nature, to see the river, it's a first for a lot of them. You know, if it wasn't for this program, these children would not be coming out to the Parkway, and these children are the future of Sacramento and the future of the American River Parkway.
As we leave this wonderful and growing outdoor education site, we'll head out to the river and go downstream. As we travel along the river corridor, I will provide a very high-level overview of opportunities that are being identified in the Lower American River Natural Resources Management Plan that is being prepared by the county in coordination with federal, state, and local agencies. For example, the gravel bar on the left is being evaluated by the Water Forum for salmonid habitat restoration for both rearing and spawning habitat. And before we get too far downriver, I do want to point out that you see homes on the right abutting the river, and this is because we are above the federal levee system, which begins a little downriver in the Arden Bar area. We are now approaching the Harold Ritchie Memorial Bridge, which is one of 2 pedestrian bridges that cross the river along the middle reach of the Parkway. On the left is another opportunity for gravel augmentation for spawning salmonids, and to the right is an existing gravel augmentation site completed by the Water Forum, which promotes wild spawning of salmon and steelhead. Within the Arden Bar area, we have the William B. Pond Recreation Area, and farther downriver is the Harrington Access Area. Below us is a site known as the Clay Banks, which is part of William B. Ponds and is also part of this beautiful braided channel, which the Parkway Plan refers to as intermittent backwater ponds and depressions, since this site was created by a gravel mining quarry that was abandoned in 1976. We will now head over to the Cassis property on the left for a surprise presentation provided by Carl Samonson and Kurt Hildebrand with Aerial Image Systems.
The Cassis property in Rancho Cordova is one of the last sizable areas of open space left along the American River Parkway. This property lies between the south side of the river and Folsom Boulevard, just to the east of Bradshaw Road, across the river from William B. Pond Park and adjacent to Riverbend Park. The property has two very distinct sections, consisting of the upper portion and the lower basin, separated by an approximately 20-foot embankment. The upper portion is primarily open field, while the lower basin resides within the 100-year floodplain and contains the remnants of an old walnut orchard as well as a number of heritage oak trees. This property has a long and storied history. For thousands of years, the Valley Nisenan people called this land home, and there are known and documented archaeological sites on or around the property. In 1844, this land was part of the 35,000 plus acres granted by the Mexican government to William Alexander Leidesdorff via the Rancho Rio de los Americanos land grant. Leidesdorff was one of the earliest biracial black U.S. citizens in California and one of the founders of the city of San Francisco. In the latter part of the 19th century, this area was some of the first ranches and orchards established in what is now Rancho Cordova. The Pony Express passed through the property on the way into and out of Sacramento. This land is home and refuge to many different animals, including raccoons, eagles, deer, bobcats, foxes, hawks, owls, coyotes, and many more of the Parkway's wild residents. The endangered Swainson's hawk has been spotted in the area recently, and fishermen routinely find their way to the base of the property to stand quietly in the pursuit of salmon, steelhead trout, striped bass, and American shad. The Cassis heirs are in the process of trying to sell this property, and the city of Rancho Cordova is poised to let Trumark Homes, an out-of-town developer, wipe out this critical refuge in order to build million-dollar homes with river views. This would be a travesty and a huge lost opportunity to preserve the history and ecology of the area. We believe that the upper 21 acres of the Cassis property adjacent to Folsom Boulevard should be developed, but that the lower 20-acre floodplain portion of the property overlooking William B. Pond and Riverbend Parks must be preserved. Preserving this land would save this irreplaceable recreational, educational, and natural resource for the citizens of Rancho Cordova and all of the Parkway's thousands of annual visitors.
As we near the end of the Arden Bar area, you will see a pond on the right side of the screen, which is known as Arden Pond. We will come back to this site, but first I want to point out the Harrington Access area that is up ahead on the right where the river bends to the left. This access site has a paved parking lot and restroom and is a very easy approach to the river for people launching non-motorized boats. We will now turn around and head upriver to access Arden Pond, which is another man-made feature from the gravel mining days. This pond is separated from the river by a gravel dike and supports warm water fish such as bass. Arden Pond features a unique site that may be the only one in the Parkway, and that is an ADA fishing pier. This fishing pier was constructed about 15 years ago, specifically to be a disabled fishing access site. It includes stairs as well as a paved ramp that lead users down to two separate fishing piers. This pier may look fine from afar, but after more than 15 years of inundation and fluctuating river levels, the structure has shifted, which has caused lips to form in the transitions between the paved ramp and wooden pier. These lips may not look like much, but can be barriers to people in wheelchairs and using walkers. There is also a break in the handrail very close to the pier, which is likely a sign of shear stress from the structure shifting. This pier was also designed with wooden pilings, which in time are bound to rot and deteriorate and will create unsafe conditions for all users. Seeing these signs of stress and deterioration tell us that improvements will likely be needed in the future to maintain this pier as a disabled fishing access site. As we pan over the tree canopy, we'll be looking across the greater William B. Pond area, and the Parkway Foundation will take us on a tour of what this area has to offer.
Today we'll explore the William B. Pond Recreation Area, located in Carmichael on the north side of the river. Vehicle access is at the eastern end of Arden Way, where you drive through this entrance. As you enter the William B. Pond area, you pass the Strang Volunteer Center, which is the office of the American River Parkway Foundation. The foundation's demonstration garden is beside the building and features native plants and trees meant to attract birds and other pollinators like bees and butterflies. A covered picnic table and log seating area are open for public use. You might see quail like this one scurrying in the brush, or a little guy like this on a log. Once you pass the office and garden, you come to the ranger booth. On weekends, this is usually manned, so you can pay the $5 entrance fee. If the booth is closed, visitors are required to pay their fee to the Iron Ranger, the brown machine pictured here. Regular Parkway visitors may choose to purchase an annual $50 pass from the American River Parkway Foundation website. As we drive into the park, on the right is a large unpaved parking area designated for horse trailers. We drive to the west end of the parking lot to visit the fishing pier. When crossing the trail, make sure to look in both directions for cyclists zipping by. With views over Arden Pond, the pier has a ramp allowing access for wheelchairs and walkers. Plenty of Canada geese inhabit this area year-round, although egrets like this one are commonly seen here. In winter, flocks of grebes are seen in large numbers. A covered picnic structure with 3 tables is also located at this point. Some other commonly seen creatures include coyotes, deer, turkeys, and the ever-present vultures. We leave the pier and walk along the trail heading east. Pedestrians and runners should walk and run on the left shoulder so they can see the oncoming cyclists. Note the multiple picnic tables and grills located under shade trees in this area, creating great spaces for group and family gatherings. Reservations for picnic areas can be made through the Sacramento County Regional Parks website. As we walk east along the trail, we see 3 different large rock monuments with plaques honoring important people in Parkway history. This plaque honors William B. Pond, for whom this recreation area was named. He was the first director of the Department of Parks and Recreation for Sacramento County and is known as the father of the Parkway. Directly across the trail is a popular cycling rest and meeting spot with water fountain, benches, and restroom. Another plaque honors Eppie's great race. Eppie Johnson, a Sacramento restaurateur, started a triathlon featuring running, biking, and kayaking or canoeing down the river. This race raised thousands of dollars over the years for children's charities. If you take one of several trails that head off to the right and follow the river's edge, you'll approach the William B. Pond clay banks, just downstream from the bike bridge. This is a popular spot for locals to watch wildlife and boaters or just enjoy the water on hot days. Mallards like these and mergansers are often spotted in the waterway, while red-shouldered hawks and osprey are overhead.
Now we will bring you back to a view of Arden Pond that aligns with the draft map in the Natural Resources Management Plan for the Arden Bar area. The big yellow polygon in the middle of this map is a component of proposed mitigation that would offset impacts from the Army Corps of Engineers bank protection projects within the Parkway. This mitigation project would construct shallow water fish habitat for juvenile salmon, a berm to separate the restored Arden Pond from the adjacent Bass Pond, and planting of vegetation to create shaded riverine aquatic habitat. The draft supplemental environmental document for this site is scheduled to be available this winter for public comment. And the dark blue areas on this map are additional opportunities for salmon habitat restoration that are being evaluated by the Water Forum. As we carry on downriver, I hope you all enjoyed learning about a few opportunities in the River Bend and Arden Bar areas. Harrington Access is on our right, which marks the end of Arden Bar and the start of the Sarah area, which gets its name from the Save the American River Association, a grassroots nonprofit that started in 1961 to spearhead the establishment of the American River Parkway. On the right, you can see the paved bike trail winding through the parkway. This is also a good view of the federal levee system that borders both sides of the parkway from Arden Bar down to Discovery Park. This will be a common site for the next several area plans, with the river taking up most of the parkway and a relatively narrow band of land and habitat on the river side of the levees. There are a few opportunities identified for the Sarah area, mainly between the paved bike trail and the river. These include 3 salmon rearing habitat projects in blue and 2 bank protection mitigation projects in yellow. We are now approaching the Watt Avenue area, where there are a series of bank protection projects being planned, which you can see on this map in the orange crosshatch polygons. There are also a few opportunities for salmon rearing habitat projects on the left, one that spans both sides of the Watt Avenue Bridge, and a second site located just beyond a prominent island up ahead. As we fly over this island, we'll get a great bird's eye view of the riparian habitat and its canopy. If you look closely on the left, you will see a side channel through the canopy, and that is where the long continuous salmon rearing habitat project site is proposed, and that continues beyond the utility lines that cross the river up ahead and to the next island just before the Howe Avenue Bridge. On this map of the approaching Howe Avenue area, you can see that the island up ahead may be pushed to the side to stabilize the right bank, while also improving the conveyance of floodwater through this area. And on the left is that long linear rearing habitat project that started in the Watt area. Up ahead is the E.A. Fairbairn Water Treatment Plant that is owned and operated by the City of Sacramento and is designed to treat up to 200 million gallons of water per day. Just beyond this water treatment plant is the Guy West Bridge, the second of two pedestrian bridges that cross the river in the middle reach of the Parkway and is the gateway to Sacramento State from the north side of the river. The campus commons area has a few opportunities for bank protection and salmon rearing habitat that you can see on this map. The rearing habitat site begins back at Howe Avenue on River Left and terminates before the water treatment plant. And the bank protection project begins upriver from the Guy West Bridge and continues along the right river bank all the way to the far end of the campus commons golf course. Up ahead, you will notice that the river channel becomes quite narrow as we enter the Paradise Beach area on the left. On our right is the Campus Commons area, home of the Campus Commons Golf Course. Immediately on our left is one of two bank protection sites for Paradise Beach. This upstream site is the highest ranked site in the Parkway due to the nature of its very narrow channel and heightened water velocities that are chewing away at the banks on the left side. The two bank protection sites on this map are being reviewed under the Corps' Contracts 2 and 3 for the American River Common Features Project, and construction for the upstream site is expected in 2022. The Cal Expo area is characterized by its very broad floodplain and a few prominent features, such as the corridor of transmission towers, dirt maintenance roads that also served as the off-paved trail cycling pilot program, which was tested over the last 3 years, as well as a site known as Bushy Lake that is located at the toe of the levee that separates the Cal Expo Fairgrounds from the floodplain. The Cal Expo area is one of the few sites in the Parkway that is not owned by Sacramento County and is owned by the state of California. However, the county does manage this area for Cal Expo. Dr. Michelle Stevens, a Sacramento State professor, will introduce us to Bushy Lake and her pursuit in restoring a sustainable and resilient ecosystem here.
Hello. Thank you for joining us today for a virtual tour of the magic of Bushy Lake. My name is Michelle Stevens, and I'm a professor in environmental studies at Sacramento State. I've been a wetlands and restoration ecologist for 30 years, and my background is in ethnoecology. I'm a tribal descendant of the Nez Perce tribe, and I've worked with the Miwok people for 20 years. Lexi Von Ehrenkrook is my student intern. I would like to thank Cara Allen, project manager for the Wildlife Conservation Board, and Nathan Dietrich, Associate Vice President, Sacramento State Public Affairs and Advocacy, for their support and encouragement. This is the boundary for the Bushy Lake Conceptual Restoration Plan, part of the Cal Expo reach of the Lower American River Parkway. Sacramento State has been actively engaged in restoration on the east or right side of the map where the squiggly line is. Bushy Lake is owned by Cal Expo and co-managed by Sacramento County Parks. It was established by the Bushy Lake Preservation Act of 1976 by the Save the American River Association and is now a state nature preserve. Sacramento State began working at Bushy Lake in 2015 through participation in the Ecological Society of America Earth Stewardship Initiative Post-Burn Demonstration Project to create a fire-resilient landscape on the Lower American River with Yale University, UC Davis, Sacramento County Parks Department, and the American River Parkway Foundation. Bushy Lake provides a living lab and game changer on the Lower American River. Over 500 Sacramento State students have helped with restoration, adaptive management, community engagement, citizen science, and community service. We have had local high school and middle school students and the general public participating in restoration activities. We are engaged in undergraduate and graduate student applied research. Also involved are the Sacramento State Sustainability and NSF-funded Sustainable Interdisciplinary Research to Inspire Undergraduate Success Project River Science Program. These are some images of activities at Bushy Lake with students. Stage 1 of our project occurred over the last 5 years, where we restored approximately 5 acres of plants like whiteroot, creeping wild rye, and mugwort. You can see from the lower left-hand slide that the whole site was burned when we started in 2015. These native plants that we have chosen have dense below-ground rhizomes and roots, which makes them resilient to fire. Stage 2, where we are at right now, we're conducting more pollinator experiments and other culturally important forbs and grasses. Classes are actively engaged in these experiments. Meismer won the highest performing undergraduate student of all 23 CSUS campuses in 2019, showing that there is some robustness and merit to our student faculty research. Whenever we see river otters at the site, which is fairly frequently, there's always a sense of magic and wonder. Also providing lots of magic are all the birds on our site. We have quite high bird diversity as they move through the cycle of seasons at Bushy Lake. Dan Williams, Sacramento Audubon, has conducted continuous avian point count surveys since February 1st, 2020, and has recorded over 120 bird species. He says the avian diversity of Bushy Lake is truly astounding, and surveys throughout the year have shown how many different birds use the area in many different ways as the seasons progress. We have nesting red-shouldered hawks, red-tailed hawks, and other raptors like an osprey moving through the site periodically. The northern flicker is important culturally for its rusty red feathers for ceremonial flicka headbands and other dance regalia. These are some of the beautiful birds that Dan Williams has taken pictures of moving through this site. These are the birds that we see every time we go out that greet us, the ospreys and egrets and magpies. We have had some challenges at Bushy Lake. It's a very porous site, so people come and go. We've had threat of burning, flooding up to the levees at Cal Expo, drought, invasive plants and animals. And the biggest problem is really homeless people camping and trash in there, keeping our students and researchers safe. And they do steal or destroy our scientific sampling equipment. We had a big event in 2016 with over 200 people and county supervisors. We plan to do another big event through this grant in 2023, and we hope you'll all come. The Bushy Lake Conceptual Restoration Plan goals are threefold. 1, to understand, protect, enhance, and restore habitat refugia for western pond turtles. 2, to provide ecocultural restoration and fire-resilient habitats for native plants, animals, and pollinators. And 3 is public and stakeholder outreach and education. The more we study Bushy Lake doing adaptive restoration, the more we discover, the more we come to understand that this area provides significant native plant and wildlife habitat for the Lower American River. We have surprises like the beavers that are coming into the site and acting as ecosystem engineers. This site also provides a template for applied scientific studies, conservation, restoration, and education activities along the river to share with partners, the communities, and stakeholders for overall restoration success and a sense of tranquility, beauty, and wonder for the Lower American River. Our first goal is western pond turtle conservation. When we first observed the turtles, I thought they were all western pond turtles. However, Laura Patterson of the California Department of Fish and Wildlife Service and Jeff Alvarez helped us identify the turtles more accurately, and we realized most of the turtles at Bushy Lake were invasive red-eared sliders. Unfortunately, the invasive turtles are competing with the pond turtles by approximately 80%. The pond turtle is the only native freshwater turtle left in California and is designated a species of special concern by the California Department of Fish and Wildlife. Western pond turtles are also currently listed as an endangered species in the state of Washington. In 1992, the pond turtle was petitioned for listing under the Federal Endangered Species Act. Ongoing drought, elimination of habitat, degradation, and fragmentation of wetland and aquatic habitats and invasive species continue to adversely impact and raise concerns about California's sustainable native turtle populations. Our goals for this Western pond turtle restoration are to continue to conduct studies on Western pond turtle biology, to evaluate the invasive species, design key habitat elements for successful turtle reproduction and conservation, and to design a public education plan. On the right are Western pond turtles. Upper right is Sparky number 1, and on the right is a Western pond turtle on our data form. These are adult Western pond turtles. The turtle study includes visual surveys, monthly live trapping, mark recapture and release, nesting surveys, which we will intensify this spring. We've created artificial basking sites and put wildlife cameras out so we can survey the turtle biology without disturbance. In the future, we would like to use telemetry to determine turtle movements between the American River and Bushy Lake. These are pictures of nesting Western pond turtles. In the center, you can see the mother turtle laying her eggs. First, she pees on the soil to moisten it, and then she digs a hole with her hind legs. In this picture, she's depositing her egg. On the left, you see a disturbed Western pond turtle nest from Bushy Lake. The hole is about the size of the finished hole, and then on the upper left is a plug that the mother turtle puts over the hole after she lays her eggs and finishes nesting. On the upper right is a red-eared slider nest. All the nests we found were preyed upon by skunks. With that pea smell, it's easy to locate these nests, and the skunks kind of roll up the eggs like little tamales. This is a picture of babies in a turtle nest, and they first have an egg yolk sac that they absorb, and then they keep moving to the top of this little bunch of turtles and wearing away the top of the soil. These tiny little vulnerable turtles are very soft. They're only the size of a $50, and somehow they have to make it from this hole clear down from the upland area to the waters without getting eaten or preyed upon. Baby Turtles by Jeff Alvarez. I've never seen a baby turtle. This is our sampling protocol for turtles at Bushy Lake with a picture of our live trapping of turtles and then our basking platforms. At this point, I'd like to invite you to engage in our video to see what we do out on the beautiful, magical Bushy Lake. These are pictures of the invasive turtles at Bushy Lake. As I said, there's about 80% invasive turtles, including yellow-bellied sliders, red-eared sliders, and this peninsular cooter is from Florida. If you notice, it has teeth and can get up to 30 pounds. Ultimately, we may have to remove these turtles and find forever homes for them. We will not be destroying or killing turtles in Bushy Lake. Goal 2, in this part of the research and conceptual restoration plan, we're going to conduct ecological studies and design our draft and final conceptual restoration plan for fire resilient and culturally significant native plants. First, we'll characterize the hydrology, then we'll continue monitoring and planting and conducting research on our pilot restoration project. We have an aquatic team characterizing the habitat and water quality, and last, ecosystem engineers, the magic of beavers. The hydrologic characterization will characterize surface water flow and conditions between Bushy Lake and the American River, which, as you can imagine, is pretty vital for a successful conceptual restoration plan. The objectives of the hydrologic assessment by Dr. Kevin Cornwell and his graduate students is to clarify land surface drainage conditions, determine surface water elevations through land surveying of Bushy Lake and the American River, assess the surface and subsurface connection with the American River, determine how Bushy Lake responds to upstream dam releases, and determine the rate of inflow into Bushy Lake from groundwater pumping from Cal Expo. This shows you the project area that we fly over with drones. Getting a drone license is like an entry-level airplane license, and with the utility corridor, you can imagine it takes some permits and some skill to conduct this kind of flight. This image shows where aerial photos have been taken in the zones that include the lake and the northeast part of the study site. This represents several hundred photos that will be processed, sewn together. Elevation values determined using AggieSoft software. This is a 3D rendering of the geographic location and altitudes displayed prior to processing. These will all be sewn together and creating a model which we will construct surface maps from for the hydrologic assessment of Bushy Lake. Ecocultural restoration by resilient native habitat piece is ongoing by Dr. Stevens at Sacramento State. Plant species selection is focused on showcasing Native American cultural knowledge and ethnobotany. A few culturally significant plants on the lower American River include whiteroot or Carex barbarae for baskets in the material culture. Willows, hazelnut, and redwood grow on this site, and they're also important for baskets in the material culture and habitat. Fiber plants, milkweed, and Indian hemp are important for fish lines, regalia, and to support pollinators. Tule reeds for material culture. And we've been planting a lot of grass forbs and geophytes that are important for food and medicine for native cultures, as well as sacred pollinator plants. On the right, you see the remnant vegetation remaining in the Sacramento-San Joaquin Delta. Our goal at Bushy Lake is to provide a reference template of native vegetation for the American River watershed. I did my doctorate on Carex barbarae. Long below-ground rhizomes provide resiliency in the case of fire. They provide stream bank protection from erosion, water quality improvement, and it's ethnobotanically the most important plant in the area for basket weaving. These are culturally important plants: milkweed, elderberry, Indian hemp. This is native plants restored at Bushy Lake with yarrow, gumweed, and mugwort. The aquatic team, Dr. Jamie Nitel, Hannah Savage, Dr. Tim Davidson, and Carla Cruz Medina, monitoring water quality in aquatic habitat. Preliminary results indicate that water quality has very high phosphorus levels, turbidity, and eutrophic anoxic conditions near the inlet of the Bushy Lake in the same area where the resident western pond turtles reside. The water inlet is used by homeless for bathing, garbage, and other issues, and that's where the pollution is coming from. The aquatic food web includes invasive red swamp crayfish, bullfrogs, and catfish. Bullfrogs and catfish are predators on young turtles. Here's the aquatic team out. Here's catfish, bullfrog, tadpoles, and red swamp crayfish. Last, I wanted to talk to you about the beavers at Bushy Lake, ecosystem engineers enhancing habitat. Beavers first appeared at Bushy Lake 2 years ago. They now have 2 lodges and are in the process of building a new structure. The lodges and beeways have created habitat complexity, interspersion of habitat types, increased biodiversity, and provided a myriad of habitat niches for many species of wildlife and native plants. I call these beeways. I'm not quite sure what beaver biologists call them, but these waterways improve habitat for turtles through increasing structural diversity and basking sites. But the turtles use these beeways. This is a nesting red-eared slider mother, and she was found. They used the beeway to go up to the upland to lay their eggs. And hypothetically, the baby turtles, as well as the mothers, can make their way back. In the last 2 weeks, the beavers have expanded their area. They seem to be really busy right now. The white root beds are a really special area with many bird species and bedding sites for a doe and 2 fawns. The beavers in the last 2 weeks cut down these trees. Then they eat the bark off the log that's down like corn on the cob. They then take pieces of wood out into the Bushy Lake area and are creating a construction area. This is the beaver on the lower right is the beavers' new lodge that they're constructing. Logically, beavers have moved up in Bushy Lake to the sound of running water at the inlet to Bushy Lake. They are starting to create this little lodge and doing this construction. This is the area where our resident western pond turtles reside. Research informs us that building these dams may improve water quality and reduce phosphorus levels, which is high. It also provides basking sites for the turtles, so the beavers seem to be functioning synergistically to improve habitat for western pond turtles and other wildlife. Our last goal and most important goal, you could say, is to develop a draft and final conceptual restoration plan. We plan to integrate this project with the Lower American River Natural Resource Management Plan and the Water Forum Habitat Group. Dr. Christine Flowers is leading our Bushy Lake Stakeholder Advisory Committee so we can get input and advice and collaboration with you, the stakeholders. Every year we have an annual Earth Day event for the public, which will depend on COVID, but we do plan on having a big public event in spring in 2023, so I hope you'll put it on your calendar. We are in the Arden Arcade area and definitely want to increase public outreach and education to have children experience the magic and tranquility and wonder of nature at Bushy Lake. Our website is being updated and you can use the website to keep in touch with us. An important stakeholder for the Bushy Lake Conceptual Restoration Plan is the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and Sacramento Area Flood Control Agency. The 2003 U.S. Army Corps of Engineers Ecosystem Restoration Plan was designed for the Cal Expo floodplain. We plan to align the Bushy Lake Conceptual Restoration Plan with the 2003 Ecosystem Restoration Project design for federal authorization funding for ecosystem restoration work. I'd like to conclude with an exciting piece of information. We have in-house work on successful restoration of western pond turtles, the only case study that I know of. This is in Pittsburgh, California, and it's a western pond turtle enhancement project at the Mountain View Sanitary District. Successful restoration site for Bushy Lake to draw upon. The turtles are reproducing, laying eggs. They're doing well. They've constructed islands for western pond turtles basking and water quality improvement and education. I'm very proud of our Bushy Lake team. We have an amazing group of collaborators and we hope you will join us in our efforts. We depend on stakeholders, on your knowledge. We can't do it ourselves. We really want to collaborate with other stakeholders and organizations on the Lower American River, especially the Save the American River Association, who has done so much to create this magical place. Please come and visit us and experience the magic of Bushy Lake. Thank you so very much.
Before we take a moment for questions and comments, I want to share the draft map for the Cal Expo area. On this map, you will see a large ecosystem restoration opportunity in green that was scoped by the Army Corps of Engineers back in 2003, and there is also a salmon rearing habitat opportunity in dark blue along the riverbank. This map also shows the Bushy Lake Conceptual Restoration Planning Area, which is the polygon with diagonal lines, and the gray band that bisects the floodplain is the easement right-of-way for the transmission lines. And with that, we'll pause here for any questions and comments you might have going back to the Howe Avenue area. As we approach the river, the bank on river left is the lower bank protection site that we saw on the Paradise Beach map and is expected to be evaluated under the Corps' Contract 3 for the American River Common Features Project. The environmental document for this site is expected to be released by the end of 2021 for public comment. As we gear up for our last presentation, we'll head over to the land portion of the Wood Lake area and follow a short stretch of maintenance road that is part of the off-paved trail cycling pilot program. This maintenance road follows the perimeter of this vast open area that makes up a good portion of the Wood Lake area. And like the Cal Expo area, the overhead transmission lines and towers have a very large presence here and also limit the types of vegetation that can grow within the utility easement right-of-way. As we look over one of two area plans that make up the off-paved trail cycling pilot program, we will pause here and turn it over to Bob Horowitz with Fat Track, the Folsom Auburn Trail Riders Action Coalition, for a presentation on this pilot program. As we approach the home stretch of our tour, we'd like to draw your attention to the opposite side of the river. The barren field you see is part of the upper end of Sutter's Landing Regional Park, and although it is outside the Parkway, its proximity does provide opportunities for the Parkway. The lower end of this park includes a covered skate park, dog park, paved trail, river access, and the city's maintenance yard. And just downriver from the regional park is the Bell Marine Industrial Aggregate and Concrete Recycling Facility. And then just beyond that is an open field, and the downstream half is a site that the City of Sacramento is in the process of acquiring under the Lower American River Conservancy program. If this property is acquired, it could expand public access to the Parkway, facilitate completion of the Two Rivers Bike Trail on the south side of the river, and provide opportunities for habitat restoration. We will wrap up with one last map of opportunities in the Wood Lake area, which include a few ecosystem restoration sites being considered by the Corps and salmon rearing habitat restoration along the riverbank. We'd like to give a special thanks to the California Department of Fish and Wildlife for letting us use the resources of their drone program and providing the highly skilled and trained Steve Goldman as our drone pilot. Thank you from us all at the Wildlife Conservation Board and the Advisory Committee of the Lower American River Conservancy Program.